Thank you, and I would like to thank all the speakers for moving through their material very, very smartly. And we've heard about some of the specific research potential and activities, linking that into basin-wide efforts, and the need to link that to broader than the Atlantic context to the global ocean ecosystem, which is all connected up. So now let's see if we have some input or questions from all of you. If you could be brief with your questions, and we'll take 3 or 4 and see how we're doing on time. And I can't see really with the way the lights are, but yeah.
Good afternoon. I'd like to pose a
Sorry,
question.
could you introduce yourself? And I can't quite see
Paula
where you are.
Campos. I work in the institutional sector of maritime and ports in planning, and I'm doing some research in planning, but introducing ordering criteria in planning. So the question I'm about to pose is linked with the problem of my institutional work and also with my research. And the thing is, in this conference, in the first day, we aborded development in the sense of the use and economy. And today, we are talking about ecosystem approach. The question I'm about to pose is, when you make the territorial representation of these two problems, you do it, and that's a problem, I think, in a separated way, and also the ecosystem approach is connected in a fragmented way. And I think this does not respond to the problems that Dr. Vada told about the global problem. So, what I'm about to say is that if we do not do the global relation between use and economy with the ecosystem approach, when you do the territorial representation, you don't respond to the problem of the global question that Dr. Vada talked about. So I would like to ask, what is your experience between these two aspects and in between this dichotomy? And thank you very much.
Thank you. Who would like to tackle that?
Am I Dr. Fada? Am I Dr. Fada? Thank you for the compliment. It is a very, very important aspect of it. And I think in the context of the integrated maritime policy and the Atlantic strategy, the territorial overlap between use ecosystem of the ecosystem for economic and social gain, and the understanding of the interaction between that use and the ecology, the ecosystem approach in that area, and in combination with all other uses, is very much what is talked about in terms of spatial planning, marine spatial planning, and the challenge as all of us move into the ocean to design suitable, fit-for-purpose spatial approaches that do exactly what you're asking, understand the interaction between both and make sound democratic decisions on the licensing or the permitting of activity with appropriate knowledge.
Thank you. Any other takers on that?
Basically a comment. We have to look at the global issues and try and address them locally. So if we're managing a fish stock, we need to recognize that our management or lack thereof does have implications for the broader scale and can actually impact upon as I presented, potentially the carbon storage, which has bigger implications. So we need to think global, act local, and try and fund our research or perform our activities locally to support the global problems.
Other Other questions?
Muito bom dia a todos. O meu nome é Miguel Herédia, estou aqui pela Cotec Portugal. A minha questão ia no sentido do âmbito desta conferência em que estamos aqui, foi apresentada e estamos a discutir uma estratégia comum, ou uma estratégia europeia comum para o Atlântico. A questão era se existe uma estratégia comum para a investigação e desenvolvimento do Atlântico. Acho que é um campo que tem muito a ganhar se partilhado entre todos os países. Nós temos exemplos que funcionaram bem a posteriori, depois dos acidentes acontecerem, vários investigadores se juntaram para tentar resolvê-los. Existe a priori ou não uma estratégia comum? Obrigado.
Very good question. Any of the institutions, if we could maybe go to some of our other panelists first.
Well, all our individual groups, they are already involved in international networks, but this is the easiest part. We think that we have to do our homework and to have a global strategy. What we have to do is to build up a local network, to make sure the research groups and universities and all stakeholders from one region and from one country are really willing to discuss in an open way what are their priorities. So I think the question you raised is very interesting, but in theory we have to work more locally to try to identify what will be our priorities before going to an international forum and to try to discuss in more general terms and not locally oriented what could be in theory what the global strategy. I don't know if it is clear. I understand your point of view, but I think before that we have to do a lot of work before.
Actually, if there's others that want to comment on the panel, did you want to add to that? Or?
We do not have an Atlantic strategy right now, and actually what we need to do is sit down with our international partners and start to develop one. This is rather critical. We can work away in corners and try and move forward, but actually we do need a cohesive approach to the problem, and it cannot be piecemeal. We will get nowhere. Thank you.
There has been funded by the Commission a SEAS ERA initiative that has, I think, produced an initial report that is articulating, primarily from the perspective of scientists, a research agenda, a possible research agenda for the Atlantic, which I'm sure will be a contribution. There is also an articulation through the Commission and the Commission paper, society's demands and needs of knowledge and also innovation. So I think a combination of those plus parallel initiatives of the joint programme initiatives on the oceans, I think the mechanisms to bring together an integrated, high impact, high added value contribution by Europe on the Atlantic in combination with international partners is ahead of us in the next while. And I think the mechanisms to enable and fund that, as you heard yesterday, and the political support for that is there, but needs to be sustained and built.
I think we have one last question, and then we'll have to break.
Thank you, João Coimbra. Yes, my first intention was to complete the reply of the panel concerning the European research area, but Peter Heffernan has already replied to it. But I will profit also to put a question to the last speaker that spoken about the global change and the climatic change, and also spoke about the relationship with the other side of the Atlantic. And what I see is a very different approach from the Europeans and the United States and the American countries. In Europe, we spoke mostly on mitigation and adaptation. And the other side of the Atlantic, they are speaking mainly on geoengineering. supposing that it is no more possible to do nothing. So I would like to know what is your opinion, because I think that some of the suggestions made by the Americans are very dangerous, like injecting CO2 in the ocean, increasing the albedo with some aerosols, fertilizing the ocean and so on. And there are always very harmful consequences. I don't know what is your opinion.
Good question. I think they're being pragmatic. I don't think we can solve the global warming problem with small, shall I say, Band-Aids. I think we need a technological fix, and I think that the Americans are trying to move forward that way. Some of the things they have proposed are quite dangerous, but we need to be at least thinking about them, because at least from what I can see right now, we're not going to be solving this problem with the Band-Aid approach we have.
Well, with that, I'm sorry we'll have to cut this off. I thank you all for your patience as the sessions have gone longer, and I know we're due for a break, and I imagine the organizers want to announce what time they would like you back in here. I think, though, the key theme here is this linking of the significant capacity in the various research institutions into a framework of regional and global research that does address and is undertaken locally to address these significant challenges we have on ocean space and resource use. So I would like to thank all the panelists and ask if the organizers want to say something before people get up to let us know when we need to be back in.